UNLV has a massive Boise State problem as the Rebels again fall to the Broncos. Also, does this win mean that Boise State's back in the playoff picture? Week 8 reactions? This is the Let's Run podcast. Folks, welcome to the show today. Grateful to have you on. Really awesome week. Was on with Steve Ivey previewing Mountain West basketball. Just been talking to a ton of really fun people lately. So if you are here, if you are new, please like this video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We've got a ton to talk about as we anticipate another fantastic week in the world of college football. Crazy things going on in Fort Collins with Colorado State. We've got the UNLV Boise game to talk about, Mountain West power rankings, just so much. So please, please, please like the video. Please subscribe to the channel. Really, it's so fun seeing the channel grow here. So UNLV goes up to Boise, and if you saw my live stream after the game, I was pretty frustrated. I was pretty upset for a game where I picked Boise State to win. You know, I had Boise State winning 48-21. That's pretty similar to the score margin. What ended up being a 56-31 victory for the Broncos. Not too different from what ended up happening. And yet I came away from that game, and I was actually in Boise. I traveled to Idaho to watch the Rebels play there. I walked away from that game feeling an immense amount of frustration about, the place that the UNLV football program is in, the place that, frankly, the Boise State football program is in, and feeling like, when you lose to a team like UNLV has lost to Boise State 4 times in 22 months, with a chance for a 5th time to happen, as you know, the Rebels, I guess I can briefly talk about the Rebels' path to the Mountain West Championship game, but losing to a team time and time again like that is really frustrating. And a couple of sentiments. First, Boise State, especially since Spencer Danielson took the job, is beating everybody. Spencer Danielson, has not lost a game as a coach in the Mountain West yet. And so, while it is frustrating that UNLV is continually losing these games to Boise State, every team is losing games to Boise State. And frankly, UNLV has just been clearly, by far and away, the best program outside of Boise State in the Mountain West and in the G5 West Coast area for the last couple of years. And so, it's frustrating, but the Rebels, we don't have anything to be ashamed of. There's still a lot of growth. And when you think about where this football program is, not being able to beat Boise State, it's a testament to how far the UNLV football program has come. And, Boise has had decades of success, of culture, of building, and UNLV is coming on its 3rd year of success and culture and building. And Dan Mullen replaced a lot of guys. There was off-season drama with the defensive coordinator. There's a lot of excuses that you can make. And I'm fully comfortable with Boise State fans, clowning on UNLV. It is what it is. When you lose to a team like UNLV's lost to Boise State, that's going to be part of the discussion. You can pull up bookmarks. I saw a lot of that. And frankly, I'm a little tired of it, to be honest. And I know that UNLV fans have done their fair share of talking. But, from Boise State fans, you got to tip your cap as the UNLV football program to what the Broncos have built up there in Idaho. And just try and get better and try and move on. And it was frustrating because this is probably, although there's a chance we meet up again in the Mountain West Championship game, this is probably the last time the Rebels are going to play Boise State for a long time. There has been talk about UNLV and Boise State doing a home and home series. I personally would really welcome that as a UNLV fan. I would love to continue, make it a 5-year series, do a home and home, make it a 4-year series, do a home and home with the Broncos. I think that the programs have built up a relationship. I have no problem calling it a rivalry. It depends on what you want to define as a rivalry. I mean, the fact that UNLV has never beaten Boise certainly would indicate that, I'm not saying Boise State fans have to see us as rivals, but I think that among the players and among the coaching staffs and among the athletic departments, there is a little bit of a rivalry. But I have no problem if Boise fans, think, no, it's not a rivalry. They've never beaten us. But it really kind of, especially with conference realignments, it's hard not to be a little discouraged as a Rebel fan because I want badly for this program to prove itself. And UNLV has proved itself at least on the G5 level over the last couple of years. And I guess we'll see how the rest of this season goes. UNLV has proved itself at essentially every level that it can outside of the top level, which is beating Boise State, which is being in the college football playoff like Boise State was last season. And what makes it sting even more is like I previously said, UNLV had never beaten and has never beaten Boise State. The last time the Rebels beat Boise State was 1976. It's been 50 years since this program has prevailed over the Broncos. And with that being the prospect of being our last game against Boise State for a while, it doesn't seem like we're going to beat Boise State. And that's a tough pill to swallow because I think that this Rebel program can get to the place where they can beat Boise, but we're just not there yet. And we've got a lot of room to grow. We've got consistency to try and achieve. And all we can really do is tip your cap to the Broncos and move on. And frankly, I like a lot of teams in the Mountain West. I like a lot of fan bases in the Mountain West. And between the new Mountain West and the new Pac-12, at least right now, unless you're Boise State, I don't really want to hear it. I don't really want to hear trash talk because UNLV has been the second best program. And being second certainly sucks, but it's better than all the rest of the other schools in the new Pac-12 and the new Mountain West. And while I feel confident that UNLV could one day surpass Boise State and be a better program than Boise State, it isn't right now. I feel incredibly confident, and I like the future of UNLV over every school outside of Boise State in the new Pac-12 and the new Mountain West. I do. And the new Mountain West is doing everything it can to set up UNLV to be that program. And I'm still hopeful about the future, if not frustrated about, where UNLV football is right now. So, UNLV, we play, if you go over our schedule for the rest of the season, we have a home game versus New Mexico. New Mexico's a tricky team. UNLV is going to have to play really well. That'll be the day before my baby's born. So that's going to be a kind of a stressful time for me. I think the Rebels could absolutely win that game, should absolutely win that game, even if the Lobos are going to be a tough out. UNLV will have a tricky road trip to Colorado State. Listen, I mean, Colorado State just fired, and we can talk a little bit about Colorado State right now. Colorado State fires Jay Norvell. Jay Norvell was not a good coach at Colorado State. He had every opportunity, every resource available to him to succeed as the head coach of the Colorado State Rams, and he failed. And frankly, I'm impressed with where Colorado State is as a program, that they were willing to do this midseason to get a head start on a coaching search. And kudos to the folks in Fort Collins. I think that game UNLV has traveling to Colorado State just got trickier. I think that UNLV could have done very well against Colorado State under the Norvell, kind of the dead program that Norvell was seemingly running. But with an interim coach, you never know. A lot of times teams rally around interim coaches. That's going to be a tricky game for the Rebels. If they can escape that, they have a home game versus the Utah State Aggies. Utah State's a very tricky team to play against. They're good. They know how to play. Bronco Mendenhall is a very good coach. That team has a very porous defense. I could see that game being a lot like the Air Force game, a coin flip, unless UNLV makes defensive adjustments to get better. Then we play another tricky home game against Hawaii. Hawaii at 6-2 was already bowl eligible. Timmy Chang is really showing things as a head coach there that I didn't think were possible. That's going to be a tricky game. And then Reno. So it's 5 games left for the UNLV football team. If they go 4-1, I'm not going to be upset about it. A 10-2 season would still be an awesome season for the Rebels. But at this point, honestly, with what we're paying Dan Mullen and with the offensive talent that we have, I'll be mad. I guess I should say I actually will be mad if the Rebels do not go undefeated. And if they go undefeated, they will probably make the Mountain West Championship game again. I think a 10-2 or a 9-3 is on the table. I would hate for the Rebels to lose 2 more games, but it's totally possible with this schedule and with some of the better teams that they're playing. And the Rebels are going to have to get better, and they have a bye week to do so. So let's talk about the Mountain West kind of as a whole. Boise State, because they won this game, and they were going to win this game. Boise State has a slimmer of hope in the college football playoff picture. Now, it may be just a fool's hope, but with Memphis losing to UAB, and South Florida would probably have to have at least 3 losses and not win not win the American League. A South Florida team with 2 losses would go over a Boise State team with 2 losses. Honestly, even a South Florida team that's an American champion with 3 losses might go in over a Boise State 2-loss team because of the head-to-head. It's a slim path. You're going to need Memphis and Tulane each to drop another game. You're going to need Navy to lose. But Boise State, their chances of making the college football playoff with that Memphis to UAB loss took a nice leap. And ultimately, that is, it's a glimmer of hope. I still don't think it's going to happen. I think it's almost impossible, but it's not impossible. So Boise State, and certainly for the Mountain West, that would be a nice feather in its cap as the season kind of closes out, as the last season of the traditional Mountain West structure before it goes away. I'm rooting for the Broncos to do it unless the Rebels can beat them. I want the Broncos to do it, and I guess we'll see. My power rankings for this week will be pretty quick tonight because I've got just a ton going on. I can't do as long of an episode as I would like to. But these power rankings, for whatever reason, they got a lot of attention this week. A lot of people seem to like them. Let's pull them up and go through each team. So let's share screen. Power rankings. A lot of people like them. So I put Boise State back at number 1. This Bronco team showed a lot of hearts. They had a couple of turnovers in that first half against UNLV and were in a vulnerable position and responded really well. San Diego State, I have slotted down to number 2 now. They've got a huge game versus Fresno State, a big game for both programs, really. It's a road trip to Valley Children's Memorial Stadium where you could see a really entertaining game versus San Diego State, a program that its record, I think, is really solid on the year. I still think that Cal win is still the most impressive thing any Mountain West team has done this season. Number 3, got to shout out Hawaii. Hawaii's playing awesome, man. They beat Utah State. Obviously, they had a great win at Air Force. And Hawaii's just kind of cooking along. I mean, you have to give Hawaii a lot of respect. If they don't have that stupid loss to Fresno State, Hawaii's really sailing high. So much respect to Hawaii, to Mike Alejado, to Timmy Chang. Again, that's a team that I thought would go 2-10 in the season, and they have proven me wrong every step of the way. UNLV, I don't really drop. I've had UNLV at that kind of 2 to 5 range. I feel like I've been pretty confident about how good this UNLV team is. They are capable of competing in the Mountain West, not as good as Boise State, as have a case to be just as good as every other team. And so I don't really drop UNLV a ton because I feel like what happened to them in Boise, you saw Boise did something kind of similar to New Mexico. And ultimately, I think New Mexico, the score was closer than it was against UNLV, but I didn't feel like New Mexico had much of a chance in that second half. It kind of seems similar to what happened to UNLV. UNLV is a good team. They're not a great team. And I feel like the fourth place spot is pretty good for them. Utah State at number 5. Utah State's traveling to New Mexico in what will be New Mexico's Super Bowl for sure this season as Bronco Mendenhall makes his return to Albuquerque. Utah State's a good team. I don't think they're a great team. They're kind of similar to UNLV. I think UNLV is better, to be honest, but Utah State certainly has a decent record this season and have only lost to good teams. I mean, they haven't really beaten any very good teams, but they've certainly only lost to good teams. Which is something more than you can say for number 6, Fresno State. Fresno State has seemingly been a good team this season, but at the same time, they also had that puzzling loss to Colorado State. Don't know what to make of them. They could be good. They could not be good. I feel like this spot at number 6 could be a little unfair to them, but it also could be pretty accurate to where they are as a program. We'll see how they play against San Diego State. New Mexico, a very nice win. New Mexico is a program that is worth believing in, that is worth shouting out. I shouldn't say a nice win. They barely squeaked out a game versus Reno, but Reno tends to play teams close. Besides that San Diego State game, of course. This New Mexico team's tough. If they beat Utah State, they're going to vault up the rankings, at least to number 5, maybe higher. It's a big game for Jason Eck and that program. Number 8, Air Force. This is the second or third best offense in the conference and the worst defense in the conference alongside UNLV. Electric team. I expect them to go on a bit of a run to end the season. Then number 9, Colorado State. Colorado State was in a close game over the weekend. To be honest, this Colorado State Wyoming pairing, you could really put those teams in either order, 9 or 10. They do have the border war coming up, so it'll be fun to see them play. San Jose State at number 11, again, one of the most disappointing teams. Maybe, I mean, for me, at least in the G5 level, maybe the most disappointing team of the year. Just haven't been able to win close games. They had that loss where they really could have done it against Utah State. San Jose State, just a disappointing year. And then in last place, Reno. Not a lot to say about Reno, but ultimately, that's where the Mountain West stands this week. And as a Rebel fan, I hope that we can get back to the conference championship game. But unless I see things differently defensively, I just think the Rebels are going to have at least 2 or 3 losses, and it's going to be very difficult for a path to open up to the conference championship game at that point. Especially if they have 3 losses, it's essentially impossible. 2 losses because they don't play San Diego State and they lost to Boise State. It's going to be tough. They really can't lose another game. So I guess we'll see. But this is a fun time. If I go to the Mountain West matchups, I guess I can briefly pick all of the games coming up this weekend. I'll just give you a brief picks. I'm not much of a picks guy. I don't think I'm the right person to come to tell you who's going to win what type of game, but I will give you my picks for each game this weekend. I will comment that I think that, UNLV is in a bye week, but I think the bye week just picked up 10 yards on a first down run. That's how porous the UNLV defense has been. So we're going to have to fix things there. Boise State travels to Reno. That is a Friday night game. Reno has historically always played Boise State tough. I don't think this is going to be one of those games. I think Boise State runs roughshod over Reno, and Reno moves to 1-7 and 0-3, 0-4 in Mountain West play. I could see a 20 or 30 point win. Utah State, New Mexico. I'll pick New Mexico in this game. Again, it's New Mexico Super Bowl. Utah State's very good. I would not be surprised to see this be a very close and competitive game. Would not surprise me at all to see Utah State win this game. But New Mexico, ultimately, I think this game's just too important to that program, and I will pick the Lobos. San Diego State, Fresno State. I think that this could be a rough spot for San Diego State. This Fresno defense has shown vulnerability. And the San Diego State defense has been very stout. I'm going to pick the Bulldogs here, mostly because it's a home game. Again, this feels kind of like a coin flip game. Just don't know what's going to happen. Then at 4:30 p.m. on CBS Sports is the Border War, Colorado State, Wyoming. I'm going to pick Wyoming in this one. It's in Laramie. Really fun rivalry. Caden Anderson has had a decent season for the Cowboys, even if that Cowboy defense has not quite been as stout as you would like. It's been an interesting team to watch. And ultimately, I think that Colorado State, there's a chance that an interim coach comes in and hypes up the Rams a lot. But ultimately, I don't think that Colorado State has the horses or the organization to get it done after firing their coach midseason. I don't think Colorado State's going to be one of those teams that rallies around an interim coach. But there you go. I'm picking Boise State, New Mexico, Fresno State, and Wyoming. So guys, let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Please subscribe to the channel, and let's run.